Advanced Algebra, Chapter 6, Lesson 1, and we want to take a short video and talk about modeling data with polynomial functions. Now this is going to be a review of something we've done earlier in this year, but I want to talk about a couple of things as we review what we've done before. Now earlier this year, you remember, we used lines and parabolas to model data. Now sometimes the data can be better fit with a polynomial that has a higher degree. Now what we're talking about is, remember earlier in this year we took a table of data and we would make a scatter plot, and then we want the line that fits best, and then we would use our calculator to calculate the equation of that line. So what I want to do is review how we do that on our calculator. So you remember that the first step is that we have to enter the data into our calculator. So you remember you'll go to the stat key on your we're talking about a TI-84 calculator. You'll go to the stat key and then you'll use the edit menu, and that will take you to the list where you can enter in your data. As a reminder, when we're entering years, if we have a table of data that begins at a certain year, we want to re-express that data, meaning we want to take that first year, let's say 1960 is the first year in our list of data. We don't want to use the value 1960. We want to make that the initial year, or 0, because at that year that's the year we began the study. And then each year after that is going to be re-expressed in the years since 1960. So let's say that the second value is 1965. So in our list we don't put 1965, we put the years since 1960, so that would be 5 years. And then if the next value is 1970, that would be the value 10, and so our list would be 0, 5, 10. We're changing the years into the years that have passed since that initial year. Once we have all the data in the list, we then want to calculate the regression. Now the problem will tell you which regression to use. In other words, we're using third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree. So when you go to the stat key and then go to the calculate menu, you'll see different options: linear regressions, quartic regressions, cubic regressions, quadratic regressions, quintics, etc., etc. You'll want to choose the regression that the problem tells us to do. Okay, then once we've done that, we calculate the regression. We're going to get the list of values that the calculator calculates. So we then want to write the equation using those values. Generally speaking, we're going to round off to hundredths place as long as we have values in hundredths place. If the numbers are smaller, then we'll have to round off to the first digit that we come to, thousandths or 10,000ths or something like that. It's important that you define your variables and give the units. In other words, let's say we're doing a regression where the x values are time, and time is measured in minutes. All right, when you create the equation, those x values are determining the values of that x in terms of minutes. So once you have your equation, if you want to know, if the question asks you how much what's the population after 3 hours, well, you can't put 3 into the equation because the equation was calculated using minutes. So you'll have to change those hours into minutes, and you'll have to the only way someone would know to do that is if you would give the units as part of your answer. So when you write the equation, you'll want to tell us what the value or what the units of those variables are. You would have to say x models time measured in minutes, let's say. All right. So once you've got your equation and you've got the units defined, then you can actually use that equation to answer the next question. So generally speaking, the equation or the question will ask you, well, now that you have this equation, what would happen, say 20 years after 1960? So you would actually enter in 20 for x. Or they might ask you what would happen in 1992 according to your equation. So again, you have to change 1992 into how many years is that since 1960, 32. you would put that into your expression and then be able to answer the question. All right, so let me, that's a reminder of what we do. Let me show you real quickly an example I have how that would work. Okay, we'll slide this over here, and so we have this here as a reminder. So this is number 22 out of your book. So if you wanted to look at number 22 real quick as I'm doing this, you can see what we're going to do. So again, as I look at problem number 22, it gives me a table of data. So to enter that in my calculator, I select the Stat key and then the Edit menu, and then that will take me to a List menu. And you can see I've entered in my list of values here in 1. Yours will say L1 up here. I have a little bit different version, but it's generally the same. And then I have the X value or the Y values listed here. This might be L2 for you. Once we have the data in the list, you'll go back to the Stat menu or the Stat key, and then you'll scroll over to the Calculate menu, and mine looks up here like this, and you'll have a list of this where you have the different regressions possible. This problem asks me to do the cubic regression, so I will select the cubic regression. Now your menu will probably look as something a little bit different like this, and again, we've talked about it earlier this year, so just make the necessary adjustments that you need to make. Now my X values are down here in list X, so I need to put my X list there. My Y values are in my Y list, so you'll have L1 or L2 here. And then you can go ahead and calculate it. Now I need to change something here just so I'm going to have it put my values in my C column for me. And then you go ahead and calculate. And then you'll see here it gives me, let me make this a little bit larger so we can see more clearly what it is. So it'll tell you the cubic regression that you have, and it'll give you the general equation ax cubed plus bx plus squared plus cx plus d. Cancel that. And then you'll notice it gives me the value of A, the value of B, the value of C, and the value of D. So I'll substitute these values into this expression, and I'll have my regression equation. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll go back over here. And so my equation will be y equals, and then I have the A value. So this is, notice we said rounded to hundreds, but there's a 0 here, so we could round up to 0.01. So my A value is negative 0.01, and then I have x cubed. And then it gives me the B value, so substitute that in. That's a positive 0.43 x squared. And then it has the C value is negative 6.01x, and then it gives me the D value of positive 43. Man, I have trouble writing. 43.57. So this is the equation or the regression line or the line of best fit that fits that data in that table. So that's a review of how we do those regression lines, and that will wrap up this video for lesson 6.1.